A very, very short story about myself. Back in the university days, I used to have a brand that was doing very well, at least to an extent, it was going very well. But all of a sudden, after about 3 years, almost 4 years of running the brand, it just crashed. I don't know how to explain. It just crashed. I went from getting orders from morning till night to getting one or two orders. And then it got worse that there was no order again. Like, I went from restocking every day to my stuff's getting spoiled in the freezer. That was how the switch just happened in a flash. Like, it wasn't a gradual process, it was just a flash. It just happened with film all of a sudden. And then you want to imagine the pain of having such a successful brand just crumbling without any kind of explanation. Like, I just could not wrap my head around what happened. So for months and even a year plus, I'll just sit down and I'll start crying. I was in pain. I was bitter. Like, I went from, CEO to nothing. And sometimes I cry myself to sleep. It went on for months and a year, like that. But I noticed something one day. I noticed that anytime I cry myself to sleep, I have a dream and I see myself back in my secondary school or old houses, the houses we have lived in like 12 years ago, 13, 15 years ago. I'd see myself back there. And then my own childish mind, though, I will now start. Hey, the enemies that made the business crash, they are still behind me. They are still drawing me back. Oh, my enemies. I bind my enemies. I scatter my enemies. Blah, 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 blah. And one day, God pitied me. He pitied me. I was like, this girl is just wasting her strength on these unnecessary prayers. And then he made me understand that every time I go back to cry about the past, I am pulling myself back spiritually. And not just spiritually, even physically. I kept pulling myself back. And for so long, I thought it was my enemies. But it was me. It was God trying to tell me that you need to move on. It's enough. Think of the next thing to do. Think of the next way to stand up. Stop pulling yourself back by still keeping that pain, by still crying over something that has gone, for goodness sake. Now, I'm I'm telling this story because we all have the mentality that whenever we see ourselves in our dreams, whenever we see ourselves in our past houses, in our secondary school, places we've been to or we no longer even staying for years, we start thinking is our enemy. Listen, sometimes you could be your own enemy. So I'm going to give instances of when this kind of dream can come to you. Now, if you once had a bad habit, there was something you were doing that was not good for you, that God does not like, the moment you go back to such habits, this dream could come as an indication that you are pulling yourself back. Hmm? That's not your enemy, it is you. Also, like my own story, you had a bad experience, something bad happened to you. You had this thing that is making you bitter, a broken relationship, betrayal from friend, maybe someone got you angry, anything that would cause bitterness or pain in the heart. And then you go back every time. You keep going back to think about it. You keep going back to feel sad about it. You keep going back to cry about it. This dream might come to tell you that you are pulling yourself back and you need to move on. Also, it could come as a result of you linking up with an old friend. Quick example again from myself. There used to be this lady I used to be very, very close with. Recently, we used to be very close. For not for too long, I think for about a month or two. And then I started to notice some energy I don't like. I started to notice some things because I'm very observant. I started to notice some things I didn't like, things I experienced whenever we are together, things I experienced, I just tried to observe some things and then I didn't like the energy, so I separated, like I withdrew. She tried come back, what's going on? This and that, you have changed. Sorry, don't be no vex. Then it was her birthday and she was sharing cake. We're staying in the same compound. It was her birthday and she was sharing cake to everybody. We stopped though, we stopped talking, nothing. And then it was her birthday, she was sharing cake and then she came. It's birthday, I love birthdays. I can't fight to share your birthday. Man, no, I'll not do that. So she came, she shared cake, she came into my room. Oh, it's my brother, happy birthday. Oh, you know me, I love cake. Oh, give me, you will not give me just one, or you will give me two. So I played with her that day and all of that, collected the cake. I didn't even eat the cake immediately, actually. I just collected it because I was very sleepy when she came. So I just collected it, dropped that. Later, I'll go and buy correct coke and sit down with the cake and eat it because I collected double portion as an old friend now. Because it would seem somehow if she had come to me that day and on her birthday, I still tried to, withdraw. So she entered my room, we laughed, played, and all, she left. I locked my door and I slept. Remember, I said I was sleepy. And I slept. What did I see? Now, I saw myself putting on my secondary school uniform. I was serving here, NYS, not maybe close to secondary school. So that's why I said it's very recent. I saw myself putting on my secondary school uniform in my PPA. Try to let me pin it together. My secondary school uniform in my PPA. I saw myself going upstairs to the class I was supposed to teach. And at a point, I looked at what I was wearing. It was my secondary school uniform. And I was like, why am I putting on my secondary school uniform? What is going on here? Why am I on this uniform? And that was the end of the dream. I woke up. Only me by myself, called myself. I sat down. I started analyzing. Where is this coming from? My PPA. Yes, it means the present. Secondary school uniform, the past. I was able to add it together with the help of the Holy Spirit. That if I go back to being friend with that lady, I'll pull myself back. Remember, I noticed some energy I did not like in her, and then because of that, I withdrew. If because of birthday, I now start being friend with her again, I've gone back to what I'm not supposed to do. I hope you get my point. Now, what I want you to learn from these two stories that I've narrated is that seeing yourself in your secondary school, your primary school, old houses, and all of that does not mean that your enemies are trying to pull you back. It can come as a signal that watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out, danger, danger, danger. It could just be that. And when you start binding and casting, and you're not taking heed of the exact message, you just see that this is either the dream keeps reoccurring or you actually experience the setback because you're not getting the right message. So it could come from you linking up with an old friend, someone you had lost contact with, and then you could suddenly meet again. The Holy Spirit can come to you. God can come to you to give you a message that don't do that. Bad, error, danger. I hope you understand me. And it could also come from you going back to that past relationship, that broken relationship. You people are separated, jeje and jeje, you people are separated. Loneliness now made you call that ex back. I miss you. Let's get back together. If that relationship is one that God does not support, this kind of dream can show. And if you start to bind and cast, you have missed it. So it could also come from you going back to that past relationship that God does not support, one that is bad for you. Whenever this dream comes, the first thing I need you to do is to sit and analyze everything you did recently, from the night before to the week, in fact, the month. Check your thoughts. Check your habits. Check the people you linked up with. Anything checkable, check. So you don't pray amiss. So you don't bind and cast when you need to just check yourself. Sit down, analyze it. When you have now thoroughly analyzed it, then you can now decide or you can now conclude that it is your village people. Then you can conclude that it is your enemies. Except that if not, if you bind and cast when you need to watch out, you will just keep fasting, you just keep praying, and you will not see results. And that backwardness, it will still come. So I'm not saying it doesn't mean your enemies want to pull you back, but it could be something that you yourself are doing. You could be your enemy.